Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at 6 starts now.
A potential crack in the case against the group of accused of plotting to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Tonight, the defenders have learned a key witness may no longer be in play.
A mother's grief over the murder of her son made worse when she goes to pick up his car from the Detroit police impound lot. Tamika Greer is still waiting for answers in her son's murder.
And now she has reason to wonder about how the case is being handled. It's been more than 2 months since Tamika's son David was killed by gunfire, the evidence of which she found when she went to pick up David's car from DPD impound. Victor Williams is live with how the police department is explaining this. Victor, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Devin and Kimberly. When David Greer was shot and killed on New Year's Eve, someone fired about 13 shots into his vehicle. His mother is saying there's no reason why she should have 5 of those as the investigation continues to find out who pulled the trigger.
The pain.
Ever since Tamika Greer's son David was killed in cold blood, she's been trying to work with investigators to solve his murder.
The detective that was handling the case, when he first got in touch with me, he said he couldn't identify my son. There was no ID.
But after that brief conversation, Tamika never heard from detectives regarding David's wallet or clues that could have potentially led them to solving the mystery of who killed her 20-year-old son. Fast forward a few weeks and Tamika picks up the car from the DPD's impound lot, not knowing there's still evidence inside.
Come to find out, the ID is still in his vehicle.
But what Tamika would find next will be the most heartbreaking discovery of all.
I found over 5 bullets in the vehicle still.
5 casings and rounds that were potentially looked over by homicide investigators with DPD. As soon as Tamika figured out crucial evidence had not been touched by forensic investigators, she made this video.
It's horrible to even see that.
One of those casings even found in a box of liquor Tamika had been inquiring about.
And here it is. I find the bottle of liquor never opened in the back of the vehicle on the floor.
We spoke to DPD about the issue, and although several casings were found outside, Commander Decker says he has no idea why investigators never found evidence to begin with on the inside.
Those are something that our evidence techs should have observed and recovered.
An investigation has been opened to find the exact reason why. Regardless, Tamika is saying none of this should have been overlooked, and she's hoping whoever takes the evidence off her hands will actually take the time to take a closer look.
I don't want the wrong people to get it if it's not going to be used in the right way.
And to make matters worse, we're told that David, just a few weeks after he died, he was supposed to be celebrating his 21st birthday. So Tamika just says she doesn't want any other parent to have to go through this pain and uncertainty. Victor Williams, Local 4.
It's awful. Well, Victor, what else are police saying? Do they have any leads at all in his murder?
Well, they're looking for a dark-colored SUV and possibly for 2 shooters.
That's it. Okay. Well, maybe if somebody knows something, certainly speak up. All right. Thanks, Victor.
We've talked a lot of late of the semiconductor shortage. Now it'll have an impact on a General Motors plant here in Michigan. GM's Lansing Grand River plant is stopping production starting on Monday, and it'll stay that way at least through the end of the month. Most employees will be covered through their labor agreements. They should expect about 75% of their pay through a combination of unemployment and supplemental benefits. But semiconductors found throughout vehicles, of course, from the steering wheel to the seats. And this shortage has already forced GM to stop production at 3 other plants, now a Michigan plant as well.
Well, it is quite windy and brisk out there today.
Warm and gusty together. So let's see if that's going to calm down. Getting closer to the weekend here, Ben.
Yeah, it would be nice to get the temperatures without the winds, guys, but unfortunately we got them both today, and the winds are going to hold on longer than these warm temperatures, that's for sure. Look at the sustained winds right now. Those are relatively palatable, but still on the brisk side at 20 to 25 miles per hour in spots. It's those gusts, those periodic bursts that just come in here ferociously, and even in the last hour, they've been in the 35 mile an hour range in most locations. They'll calm down somewhat tonight, but not completely. Highs got to 70, did not set a record high. That was 72, but that 59, that's the warmest low temperature we've had on this date since 1973, and it is a record. 48 was the previous record. 59 is where we started out today. Still breezy on Friday. We'll look at wind speeds there. Weekend doesn't look half bad, and also a very active pattern setting up next week. All that coming up in the next few minutes. Don't forget the Local Forecasters app has your 10-day forecast. And of course, the next 48 hours, hour by hour. You can get it, as always, for free in your favorite app store by searching WDIV. Guys?
Okay, Ben, now to the latest on the coronavirus, as today marks the one-year anniversary since the pandemic really began.
Here at home, the state reports nearly 2,100 new cases and 23 additional deaths in the last 24 hours. President Biden officially signed his $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill into law one day earlier than expected. The White House says some could see $1,400 stimulus payments as early as this weekend. The president is set to address the nation tonight to lay out where we've been and the road ahead. Well, as we've been saying, it's been a year since the first COVID-19 case here in Michigan, and today we're remembering those who lost their lives. Among the families having to say goodbye to loved ones over the past year is that of a former state rep who spoke with our Larry Spruill about what a trying year this has been. Larry, good evening.
Good evening, Kimberly. Trying and painful. That seems to be how a lot of people are describing the year 2020. Many lost loved ones due to the coronavirus, including that former state rep. She tells me that experience was emotional and hurtful.
The last year has been an absolute blur.
Former state representative Sherry Gay Dagnogo says the last year has been difficult and emotional for her family, to say the least. She lost her older sister to the coronavirus.
Reflecting back this time last year, certainly it started to become very concerning. And then my sister getting sick, getting COVID-19 and passing after 2 weeks of being in the hospital.
Sherry says she still remembers that day her sister Jelena Gay passed.
Jelena, we called her the Silver Fox. She was just charismatic, had the most beautiful silver hair that you ever want to see. She had this smile that was just unbelievable. She cared for her children. She cared for me as I was her little sister. She was the fighter.
Sherry tells me the last year has exposed a lot, not just for the city of Detroit, but the entire country.
That's really disheartening. Certainly we weren't ready, but it revealed what we really already knew. The impact of poverty on urban America.
But she says not just poverty, also the lack of food choices, transportation, and access to quality education and medical care.
The desperate impact that COVID-19 has had on our community is not just because it's COVID, but because of COVID, it is highlighted.
And Sherry says that she is hopeful now that people are getting the vaccines, but she strongly believes that we have to address the psychological and mental aspect of all of this as well. We are live in downtown Detroit tonight. Larry Spruill, Local 4.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. Larry, thank you. And we want to remind you our coverage marking 1 year since the first cases of COVID-19 continues with a special event tonight at 9 o'clock. Join Devin, myself, Dr. Frank McGeorge, and the rest of the Local 4 team for Coronavirus Crisis 1 year later. It's an in-depth look at the pandemic's impact on our community, from the success of the vaccines, changes to education, and more. That's tonight at 9 here on Local 4.
Macomb County Prosecutor Pete Lucido says he's going to investigate COVID-19 deaths in Michigan nursing homes. Lucido is asking families who lost a loved one to make a police report and take it to their local police department. The move comes after Lucido said the state and the governor could face charges over her nursing home policies at the start of the pandemic. Patients who tested positive for COVID were placed in the same facility with patients who did not have COVID, you'll recall. Governor's office believes Lucido's actions are a political attack. Lucido disagrees.
Office of the governor, through the executive orders process, after the legislature did not approve her actions, and she was acting alone, independently, without the legislature, that is what is being looked at.
Lucido says his office is already looking into 2 complaints filed this week in Shelby Township and Warren. He says he is also forming a board to review cases.
There's a twist tonight in the case against a group accused of plotting to kidnap Governor Whitmer. 2 informants had infiltrated the group, alerting federal agents to what was going on inside the group. Well, now defender Sean Lay reports one of those informants has been indicted on gun charges by the feds, who were hoping to use him as a witness. Sean?
And the key question is tonight, what does this do to the feds' case against those men they're accusing of wanting to kidnap Governor Whitmer and storm the state capitol? The Local 4 defenders giving you exclusive looks at key evidence in the case against the men accused of allegedly wanting to kidnap Governor Whitmer and launch politically motivated domestic terror attacks. We got our hands on a lot of the inside evidence provided by key FBI informants who infiltrated the group, making videos, recording conversations, taking screen grabs of secret text talk. And now the feds have named one of their key inside informants as Stephen Robeson from Wisconsin, and they've indicted their own key witness for possessing as a felon a .50 caliber rifle that looks like this. And by naming him, the informant's criminal past has been dug up. And here's Local 4 legal analyst Neil Rockine on this bombshell development.
You never want to be in a position where when you start the case, the defense is able to point the finger at somebody on your side.
Attorneys for the men will argue that the men were just talking about the plot and the FBI's own informants helped train the men, allegedly pushing the plot forward. And now there's been a major breakdown between the feds and one of their informants. What will happen to all the evidence that he gathered?
If it's just him, if he's the only one, then it's going to be difficult to admit some of those recordings.
But also keep in mind the feds had 2 other men on the inside providing them with what they say is also key evidence. Plus, one of the men accused has pled guilty and is willing to testify against the people he trained with. Sean Lay, Local 4 News Defenders.
Hey, Sean. 2 families held a protest outside a courthouse in Ypsilanti calling for justice for 2 23-year-old construction workers. Nicholas Sada and Davion Rose were killed when a suspected drunk driver came barreling through their worksite on I-94 in Ypsilanti Township back in November. Ryan Musselman is charged with 2 counts of OWI causing death. The families of Nicholas and Davion say Musselman's court hearings have been postponed twice and they want their bond increased.
Somebody who killed 2 innocent, hardworking young men is free right now. Oh, we have to go and visit them at the grave sites.
It's not just this case. The families are also calling for better protection for workers on construction sites.
Michigan medicine is growing. Ahead, we'll have a look at the new plans for a big new hospital building in Ann Arbor.
Also, a full year of the COVID pandemic has taken quite a toll on our mental health. Up next, the number of Americans who admit they are struggling, and in what ways.